if you reach a certain level of comfort, you don't need that much more money to be happy. The most money that I've ever made, I would say it is...
Today in the studio with me is Aaron Tang, also known as Mr Stingy. He went through a very interesting personal journey and transformation in terms of personal finance as well. After through that long journey, he is currently general manager for one of the most popular crypto exchanges in Malaysia. Let's welcome Aaron Tang, Mr Stingy.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for having me.
I bet many people who read your article before, when they first meet you and see you face to face, they must be like, wow, this is that guy. Is there anything that I've told you before, like, oh, this is how you look like? Anything that's much more memorable?
Normally when people meet me, they tell me, oh, you're much more quiet in real life. Because I think when you read the blog, I have a lot of opinions and so on, right? But in real life, I'm usually just a listener. So they tell me that, it's a bit funny because in real life, you're quite quiet and soft-spoken.
Why did you actually started the blog Mr Stingy? How did that name came from actually?
So I think where the name Mr. Stingy came from is it was the concept of optimization. It's like how do you reach a certain level, optimum level of managing whatever resources you have. But of course, that's quite a bit mouthful, right? It's very hard to explain that concept. So I thought like Mr. Stingy is just like a very humorous, funny way of explaining the concept. It's just like what should you be stingy about? But the part which I never really put in the name itself is like you can be stingy about certain things, right? But then you can use that to be generous with other things.
Wow, that's nice. At first I thought it was being kiam siap, means that we should save a lot of money. So how did this whole concept came about? Maybe can you take us back to an early days in your life, right? How was there any specific experience that shaped your opinion or your perspective towards money or resources in such a way?
Maybe I'll go back to when I first started working. So when you first start working, then you get your salary. You know there's a number that's on your offer letter, right? So that number. So maybe I'll share lah. My first salary was 2,510 ringgit. This was back in 2007. That's the number on offer letter. But then you realize that the number in your bank account is actually lower than that because of deductions and so on, right? So you look at the number and you're like, oh, how? So then I figured that, okay, I probably need to budget, right? Okay, how much money I spend here, how much money I spend there. I also think about like, how do I stretch my dollar to be more and so on. So I think that's maybe where the stinginess came out also lah. So I must clarify, I never intended it to be stingy, like, I don't want to pay my taxes or I don't want to give to charity. It's not that kind of stingy, right? But it's like, oh, how do I actually like minimize my banking fees, or how do I spend my money on the food, but it's an optimum spend lah. It's not like I'm paying very expensive for something that's not valuable. So I think that was kind of where the need for that stinginess came out.
So having said that, you were actually a scholar, right?
Yeah.
And you actually got accepted in working in one of the largest oil and gas company.
Yep.
And we all know that the career progression and pay rise can be pretty exciting there. So as you actually did better there, now, did your lifestyle kind of change? Like, why didn't you go along with that? Because many people that I know who work in such a firm, generally after a while, they would spend much more lavishly. They would be much more status conscious. So did you actually ever get into that lifestyle?
I think I was a little bit tempted. So maybe just for the benefit of the audience, right? I only spent 2 years working with the company that the green national oil company that thank you by the way for sponsoring my education. So I worked for them for 2 years, and then I think it was interesting because along that time when I was working there, because our office is in KLCC, the Petronas Twin Towers. So it is very common for your colleagues, maybe those who are older earning more, then they tell you, oh, I just went shopping at Surya KLCC, I bought something nice, or I bought a bag, or I bought a watch. So I think I was a little bit in my own journey, like, oh, okay, this is like quite tempting lah, to be able to afford brands and status and so on. But what happened with me actually is after 2 years of working there, I decided I want to make a career shift and try a different path, right? So that's when actually I quit my job and I went still in the oil and gas industry. I work for a different company. And I think where that shaped me is because suddenly now I'm faced with a loan that I have to pay back. Because National Oil Company, Petronas, sponsored my education in university. So if I break the contract, now I have to pay back the loan. So because of that, I also maybe it like put my thinking into hyper mode, right? Like how do I afford to pay back the loan? Because not immediately, but someday I have to pay back the loan. So I think that also helped shaped me and made me think how am I going to pay off this loan and so.
Then why do you decide to actually quit the job there and then move on to another job? Because you could have just stayed there comfortably, and now even if that company is going to pay you more, you have to pay back a loan, which is troublesome, right? So why did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, looking back, that was like 14 years ago now. So looking back, I would say part of it is definitely, when you're young, you want to try new things, right? Maybe you can say a little bit foolish also, right? You want to try new things and so on. But ultimately, I made that move because I felt that the growth prospect, the growth and learning prospect, it would probably be better for me if I go and try outside as opposed to be staying in my comfort zone. I think I was very comfortable. And again, the job is good, the perks are good, the benefits are good. Even the career progression is quite good because I look at all my friends who stayed on, and all of them also have gone on to have quite good careers today. So yeah, I mean, I thought for me that I need to try something new, which is why I did that. But it's also partly because maybe I was young and foolish.
So have you ever looked back today and asked yourself like, hey, what if I did not leave that company?
Maybe I put it this way, Peter. I think if I had not left, I would look back and think, oh, why didn't I maybe take a leap of faith when I was younger? When there's less risk and less family commitments and so on, I probably would have looked back and say, maybe I should have tried it. So definitely 100% no regrets today of like taking some maybe career moves for my personal growth. I think the happy thing is when again I look at my friends who did not take the same path as me. So many of them are also doing very well. I'm also like super happy for them. In my heart, it's like, oh, so it's like, even you take different paths, you can also be happy. You find financial success. You can find happiness in your career and also your family.
Now to think back, right? Because you don't come across to me as someone who will make rash decisions. But that was quite a rash, and you would even describe it as kind of like foolish, right? Could you share with us, like, was there any kind of, can you pinpoint to any experience in your life that kind of shaped that side of you that suddenly just say, okay, I'm going to try this? Because subsequently when we looked at your life, right, as you change career, as you move on, and right now you are in the crypto industry where it's considered one of the riskiest industry to be in. So why is there such a discrepancy?
Yeah, I think it's not inconsistent, Peter, in the sense that maybe it comes out in the writing that I'm always thinking about challenges or problems from many ways. So like I'm thinking of what's the best case, what's the worst case scenario, and so on. So it may seem like I'm like a very risk averse person, but I would say that I'm more of a person who wants to understand challenges and problems from as many angles as possible, and that actually helps me make an informed decision. Now, the decision itself may still be risky, right? It still may be a risky decision, but at least I've considered the problem, the angles enough that I know that, okay, is this decision right for me or not? But I would say that before I make such a move, I have considered it for like months even. It's not like I simply make the decision, right? I've considered it for months, look at the pros and cons, and ultimately I'm very happy looking back on the decisions that I've made.
So can we say that basically at the end of the day, the whole idea of risk is also relevant to the knowledge that you have about subject matter? Like one of the things that I always tell the audience is that for a businessman, maybe buying a land and building a factory is less risky than buying bond, in his opinion, simply because he understands his business much better than he understands a corporate bond or a country's bond, right?
Yeah, I would say more of the angle of like whether that risk is suitable for you or not. I mean, ultimately, whenever you take some kind of a decision, there's risk, and you have to always be comfortable knowing that you may not know actually where this leads, but if you are willing to take that risk and you feel that, okay, this is good for me in the long term, I think I would be a person who's always willing to take that reasonable amount of risk, is as long as I believe in where the potential benefit is going.
Right. So let's break it down a little bit. Since you're an engineer by training, I heard that engineer are very good at processes, right? Maybe you want to share with the audience here, right? How do you actually make your decision when it comes to a risky move, right? Like, it seems like you have a mental model in your mind. How do you actually run through that?
I would say I don't have like a very, very structured kind of approach, but the simplest thing to do is like writing down the pros and cons of the scenario, right? So I think most people probably already do that when they're faced with the decision, like what could go well and what could go wrong. But maybe we can stretch it out to improve that. We can stretch it out to longer time frames and shorter time frames. For example, maybe somebody thinking about, oh, should I take this job promotion, right? It's very easy to compare what they offer me for the salary versus my current salary. It's very easy to compare that. But maybe if you stretch it out further, you will get a bit more insight. Like if you think career prospects in this industry over the next 3 years, what is it going to look like? Or if you even stretch it out further, like 15, 20 years from now, when I'm like, let's say the viewer is in their 20s, when I'm 50 years old, when I look back, would I have wanted this experience in my life? So I think maybe stretching out the time is something that's quite interesting, or maybe like a little practical step apart from the normal pros and cons.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was one thing that I did quite a lot back then. Is quite similar to you. Is to actually stretch on further and look at how does it really play out and what are the risks in future. To give an example, right? This one is something that I realized, like for some of the big oil and gas firm guys, they have an issue, which is because their pay is so good, but their skill set is actually quite limited for that pay.
Yeah.
And when there is a shake-up and a layoff, they actually have no place to go.
Yeah.
Because that skill set, if they go to any other place, it wouldn't demand that kind of pay at all. So what happens is that they are forced to stick in a job that they hate, that they dislike, and even sometimes when they get kind of like frozen, right? They just have to suck it up because there's no place else that can help them. So I think sometimes when you play on in a longer scenario and understand the risk that's involved, it doesn't mean that it's not good. It's just that, would you want that situation? Is there any situation that in your life that goes like, no, I will never ever want to be there, right? So that you know if it ever gets there, like, this is how things are gonna be, right?
Yeah. I think that's very powerful because, something you mentioned that I was recently rereading one of my own articles is like the what I don't want list. The what I don't want list. So I think normally when you set goals in your life, normally when, at least for me, you think about, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. But sometimes you forget that actually if you set a list of, they call it NT goals, what I don't want, right? Then it will actually help you actually be more successful in your goals. So again, very simple example, let's say goals, make more money. Everyone want to make more money, right? Mr. Money also want to make more money, right? But maybe the NT goal to help you with that is that I don't want to neglect my family, right? So you kind of have a goal and you have what I don't want to guide you. So you know that, let's say if I'm doing something that really, really requires me to neglect my family, I'm just going to say no to it, even though it may pay me a lot of money.
That's right.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes to know what you're going to say no to is more important than saying yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It keeps you focused and helps you stay in there, right?
Yeah.
For example, what are some of those no that is in your list?
Yeah, I was just thinking, what do I not want? Okay, I think one of it is definitely I don't want to be unhealthy. So, for example, I'm not going to like take something that ruins my health or do something like that. I definitely want good quality time with family and friends. So I'm not going to do something that I don't have time for relationships and social life and so on. So that's what I don't want. Then I think one interesting one maybe is I don't actually want to retire. I don't want to just take it easy and not do something, but I want to actually have control over my career. Meaning that whatever I do for my work, I want to be fully in control of, how I can set my own hours, I can choose what I want to work on or who I want to work with. So I think those are some of my ambitious, what I want and what I don't want goals.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. For myself, my don't want list, as I think about it, the first thing when it comes to work, my don't want is I don't want a very gossipy or a toxic work culture.
Yeah.
So in my office here, I get the privilege to set it. And also just like you, I like to work according to my own time.
Yeah.
According to my own strength, what I like and stuff. I don't like people control me. So that's something that I definitely don't want. Did I really set aside to say that I really want to be rich? No. It's more of I don't want to worry about life. I don't want to be thinking that if I want to go for holiday, I need to be worried about money. If I want to eat certain food, then I need to be worried about next meal. So I think what drives me is a lot more of the don't want. I don't want people to look down on me and say that you can't achieve what you wanted to have. And I think those, what I did not want, I think it kind of motivated me a lot more than what I want to a certain extent.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it. And I think the what you don't want list is also quite powerful, because I think especially when you're young, right? When you're young, when you're in your 20s, you may not actually know exactly what you want, especially for like, where do I want my career to go and so on, right? But it's quite
clear.
It's quite intuitive inside you that what you don't want.
What you don't want, quite intuitive.
Like
yes, you're
most
right.
people know, I don't want like a toxic boss. I don't want like bad colleagues, right? And this one is the same even if you're 50 years old. When you're 25 years old, you knew it. When you're 50 years old, also you know you don't want a toxic boss. So I think it's quite powerful to help guide.
That's right.
Yeah,
I think for you guys who are watching out there, right, maybe one of the things that you can do is maybe pause the video right now and type in the comments and tell us what are 3 things that you do not want in your life. Regarding work, regarding relationship, regarding finance. Tell us and share with us in the comment. Now, let's go back a little bit in terms of career. So since we are quite certain of what kind of things that you do not want, and that's one of the things that guides you and drives you, right? In terms of career, you took a jump, you left, and then now you have to craft your own career path, right? How did you actually climb? Because when it comes to the corporate ladder, I understand that it is not an easy climb for many people. I did not have the privilege of climbing a corporate ladder because I'm just not very good at that. So I just left and started my own thing. So here I'm going to ask you, right? How was it like climbing the corporate ladder?
So this may sound a bit like cliche, right? But I never actually, I'm a bit like you, Peter. I never actually set in my goal like, I want to be a certain position by age, I actually never set that in my goals. It's never been in my written goals. I do believe that, yes, I want to get to a certain level of earning. Yes, that one is definitely my goal. But in terms of like actually setting, I want to be like manager by a certain age and so on. I've never done that lah. So for me, what really worked is, number one, I worked hard. I worked hard and I tried to be as responsible as possible. But also I tried to be communicative lah. So in other words, I think this is something that a lot of people fail to realize. When you're working at your work, right, you need to communicate to your boss and you need to communicate to also your colleagues. Okay, what am I working on? Give updates on status. And then a lot of people say, oh, this is like, very political, like you're trying to kiss the boss ass. Actually, it's not, It's like you need people to feel assured with what you are doing. You need people to understand that you've got the task and so on. So I think that was what I always tried to be. I tried to contribute towards the company. And maybe this one, some people will say is like a bit like a cliche advice, or it's a bit unrealistic. I 100% recognize that, right? But I've always operated from a position of I believe in good intentions. In other words, I don't come with a mindset that, oh, this company is out to screw me, just want to pay me minimum wage and then like steal all my earnings. I try to come with the mindset that if I work for a company, I have to believe that this company is a good company lah, and the people I'm working with are good, right? I have to come with that mindset. And then, of course, I work hard. I keep my bosses involved and so on. And then, thankfully for me, it worked out lah. I think in one of my previous companies, I probably averaged a promotion like every 2 to 3 years. So it did work out for me. Now, I'm not saying 100% if you do the same thing, 100% it will work out for you. Because, in life, there are chances, there's luck and so on. There's luck and, different things happen. But it definitely worked for me lah.
Right.
So basically operating from a position of positive mindset, trying my best to contribute to the team and so on, and working hard and communicating well.
So how do you balance in between, right? Staying in a job to get a promotion and proving yourself, and switching a job? Because I've been hearing outside there, a lot of people say it's good to just change job every 3 to 5 years or every 2 to 3 years to get a job promotion. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, and how do you balance between these two things, right?
So I think when I look back on my career, I've done both lah. I've stayed in job for like 2 years and then I left, right? That 2 of my jobs are like that. On the other hand, I've also stayed in 2 companies. One I stayed for 7 years. The other, I'm now like 6.5 years in my current job. So I've kind of done both sides of the equation. And I think the thing that motivates most younger people today is, of course, growth, right? So like, am I able to grow in my role? Am I learning new things? Am I having more responsibilities? And of course, am I able to grow my salary lah? So I would say that, if you are getting those opportunities in your current company, there's no shame to staying there for like 20 years, right? If every couple of years you get to try something new, which by the way, a lot of my friends in Petronas have got, they manage to explore new things. It's all within the same company,
That's right. Yeah.
So they stay for many, many years, right? But I also know people that, after a while, they were not able to have that growth and then they decided to move on. So I think it depends on what current opportunities you have. And then I think you can make your decision based on that lah.
So the 3 things to look for: growth in role, growth in responsibility, and growth in income.
Yeah. I think growth in role is more like growth in learning. What can you learn from there? And of course, by the way, everyone's time frame is different, right? Some people, within 2 years, I need to leave, right? Some people may be a bit more patient. They say, maybe I can wait like 3-4 years to really grow and learn. And I think everyone has their own style and their own distinct timeline. So I'm not saying that there should be like, you set 2 years and then you leave. It's completely up to you.
Right. Another area to juggle when it comes to a corporate life and climbing the career ladder is actually politics, right? Work culture, yeah. And that is something that I am not very good at dealing with, I have to say. So how do you juggle between being communicative and being politicking? Because I've heard people who are telling me, right, sometimes in certain workplaces, you spend almost 80% of your time actually thinking about how to communicate to people and not to get into trouble rather than doing your work. So actually the actual time they spend on doing effective work is 20%. 80% is about how to manage the relationship around them. Yeah. So being in multiple companies before, how do you actually juggle this balance?
Yeah, it's actually hard, and I think that if anyone has like the magic silver bullet, is like confirm like can win Nobel Prize or something, because it is such a hard challenge. And the thing about this is that I've thought about it for a long time. The thing about work relationships and so on, and work dynamics, it gets harder the larger an organization is, right? So when you're 10 people, it's very easy. Work is very easy because everyone has a direct relationship with each other. But when it gets to maybe 70 or 150 or 1,000 people or 30,000 people, then this kind of like, you have some kind of rituals, communication and so on. So I think the principle is that the larger the organization, the more complex it's going to be. So I think that's where you start. So maybe that's why sometimes people, they decide to, I would rather work in like a smaller organization because it gets a little bit more easy to have direct communication with the bosses and so on. I think the other thing that I wanted to mention was I try to, as much as possible, work with people that I like and admire or respect, because ultimately a lot of the headache, a lot of the issues can be resolved if the people are also a similar type. They're respectful. They're there to do work and not to backstab or try and compete with each other. So I think it's not a perfect solution, but I think maybe some general word of advice is, if you are in a situation where you feel like the environment is not so good, the leadership doesn't try and foster a positive culture, then maybe the number one question is whether you yourself can do something about it. Maybe you can influence people to be like that. Or number two, whether you need to start looking for maybe a different team or a different job where the environment is better lah.
That's right. Yeah. I think one thing about culture is that it has to be a very top-down thing as well. While
Yeah.
Bottom-up, top-down directives are
Yeah.
extremely important. So being an employee, there's pretty much as you can do sometimes.
Yeah.
And I've come across many different people. There are some people who are willing to take a pay cut just because of a toxic work environment.
Yeah.
And so we call that a wellness fee.
Yeah.
It's kind of like paying a new club membership.
Yeah.
So just take a pay cut for that.
Yeah.
So that you'll be happier, right? Yeah. So here's what I want to ask you the next question,
Yeah.
right? Is that how do you balance between a great working environment and pay? Because sometimes great working environment that are meaningful to you and the work that's meaningful may not have great pay, right?
Yeah.
So how do you juggle in between these two things?
I've actually been in a similar situation. So after my oil and gas days, I worked for 2 years in a social enterprise, and I used to do leadership training for young people. Young people meaning those who are in final year university or just started working. So that was, until today, one of the most meaningful jobs of my career. I really, really enjoyed working with young people. Still do. But being a social enterprise, of course, the pay is not it's not like oil and gas kind of pay lah, right? It's a bit more medium,
A bit more basic.
a bit more social, because if you're trying
A bit more
to
social.
if you're trying to do good, you can't be charging so expensive, because that's just not how the market is, right? For me, actually, it was neither of the two that actually made me move on, right? It was neither the money nor was it the happiness. The factor that I used in my own journey was I actually good at it?
Right.
So the third angle. And when I look back at my career in the social enterprise world, I don't think I was actually very good at my job. I mean, I think I was probably okay, but I don't think I was really, really good at it. So again, this may not be a perfect answer to the question that you have asked me, right? But I'm just trying to bring a third angle into it. It's if your salary is okay and your happiness is okay, or you're very, very happy and you're considering, right, what should I do? Maybe you can bring in a third angle. It's is it this job that you have, is it really suitable with your skills, your character, and so on? Because that actually may give you an
Right.
idea of what to do next.
Right. So the time when you were in the oil and gas firm, you were thinking to yourself, is this really what you're good at?
In the oil and gas firm, that's one of it. I'm thinking, am I really good at this? Do I really want to continue my career in this? The second thing I thought about is this work making me happy? And at that time, the work wasn't really making me happy. So that's where I decided to go to the social enterprise,
Right.
where the money wasn't so good, but the work really, really made me
Right.
happy, right? So now I took a different thing. But halfway through, 2 years on, when I got a new opportunity, there's one angle that I felt the work is really happy for me, but am I really suited for this? Am I really good at this? And if I'm being honest with myself, I probably wasn't very good at the work lah.
Right. So how much of a pay cut do you took?
From oil and gas days to social enterprise days, that was 52%.
52% pay cut.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That took a lot of determination, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, I think I was very blessed because, number one, my partner, she's very understanding. So my girlfriend back then, but my wife now, she's very understanding. She's we can make adjustments to our lifestyle. And to be honest, the adjustments to the lifestyle, right, they weren't that big lah, to be honest. It was a little bit lah, instead of, say, going out to expensive restaurants so much, maybe we reduce less. It's not that we won't stop, just reduce a bit, right? So I think the lifestyle adjustment was okay. But more importantly is, I managed to try something new and do something that really made me happy.
Right. Yeah. So that's the price that you were willing to pay for happiness.
Yeah.
50% pay cut.
52%, yeah. 52.
52%.
Yeah. Every detail I count. 52 also I must say. Yeah.
That's why you're Mr. Stingy,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah. And subsequently leaving the social enterprise industry,
Yeah.
then you got back into the normal corporate life again, right?
I wouldn't say normal corporate life, but I joined a crypto startup. Back then it was a startup, meaning that I was probably employee number 60 something, maybe 60 something, 70. So it was still quite a small company. So it's not like corporate. Remember how I said that when the number of employees grows, exponentially it becomes more complex. So it was a very, very nice working environment. Company was small and, really, really, really nice people. Until today, I still very thankful because I'm still with the same company, and the people I get to work with are smart and kind, and they're good people, and I'm really thankful for that.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why probably I've also stayed for many, many years until now.
I see. So finally you got the 3 questions answered in this particular place at least for now in the near future, right?
For now,
yeah. And you've grown together with the company as well, and so did your income as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so going down from a high pay to low pay, and after moving up to good pay again, right? Now, how did that change you? Now, when we talk about your perspective about money, you had this perspective of it, and then going through all this, going down and then coming back up again, making money, and this time in a different situation where you just got married, start to get a house and stuff like that. Yeah. Did that kind of change how you view money?
I think going through all these experiences has proven to me my hypothesis about money. Like last time I believe certain things about money, but actually going through it, it has proven to me. So I'll give you a few examples. Like the first thing is that I think if you reach a certain level of comfort, you don't need that much more money to be happy. That's the hypothesis. And how I tried it out is like, when I took a pay cut to go and work in a social enterprise, I did prove to myself that yes, if I can reach a certain comfortable level of money, then I don't need like too many luxuries and so on, and I'll still be very happy and can do like cool things with my career lah. So some other things, maybe some other learnings that I pick up along the way is I'm quite certain that of course more money is always nice, right? But you don't need luxury in everything, right? I think it's good to treat yourself on certain things. Some people like omakase, okay, go eat omakase. Some people like a nice car. Some people like a very, very nice stereo speakers at home or something, right? So I do believe that you should treat yourself at luxury. But most people don't need luxury on everything, right? Most people they're okay to give up something lah. Like maybe they'll just wear a normal jeans, right? Doesn't have to be like Prada jeans or something. So I think I also proved that to myself. It's like, I just choose to spend on a few things that is important to me. But the other things, I'm just happy to like lead a middle class lifestyle. So I think I also realized that along this like ups and downs along the years. Ups and downs in terms of the earnings, but in terms of like satisfaction and happiness, I think it's always been on an upward trend.
Right. That's nice. So basically you know exactly what you want, and then money is just a tool to achieve those things. Yeah. Right.
100%.
Any more than that is just extra money. That's all.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Yeah. And having said that, now that you have advanced so much in your career as well, what is the most money that you have ever made?
The most money that I've ever made. So I would say it has all been from my day job. So like basically promotions in my day job lah. Why I say day job is because I obviously have this writing thing. I write my blog. I don't earn a lot of money from the blog. Right now it's probably like sustainable in the sense that it pays for itself lah. The amount of money I earn, it can pay for all the hosting fees, the tools I use and so on. So why I bring that up is because some people, they'll make a lot of money from their side project, right? For me, I never made huge money from my side project. It was all in my day job lah, getting promotions and so on.
Right, I see.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna ask you what's your salary since that's the case. Yeah, but since that you already made money, right, and you're living comfortably, what is the most expensive thing that you ever bought? A single item expensive thing that you ever bought.
Wow. Okay, let me think. The most apart from my house lah. Okay.
Okay.
My
Yeah,
house
apart
is
from the house.
apart from my house. That's
No,
actually,
granted lah.
I actually bought. I helped to pay off some of the down payment for my wife's car. So that was something that I helped. If you talk about like, I mean, I couldn't pay off all. I helped lah, right? But if you talk about just one single item that I bought my dad a Rolex watch.
Oh,
Yeah. So
nice.
that was I mean, I don't want to like sound preachy or what, but I felt like that was I felt like this is an example of what I mean by Mr Stingy. The whole concept behind Mr Stingy. It's like I can save money on other stuff, right? Because I don't really care about certain things. I save money there. But I would rather use that money to like buy something special for my parents or my dad, who means a lot to me, right? So that is something. I would say that's probably the most expensive complete thing that I've bought lah.
Right. So you're still spending on things that makes you happy,
Yeah.
and in this case, is to give back to your parents,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
buying them
100%.
something that they like. Yeah, yeah. Your dad must be very happy. Yeah, I would like to be your dad too.
Yeah.
Just one more question here before we end today's session. Yeah. What do you think is the most important financial habit that any young person out there must have in order to live comfortably or achieve happiness?
I think it's not so much a habit, but it's more of a mindset lah. And I'm becoming more and more convinced of this. The older I get, the more I observe people, the more I observe myself. I think the single most powerful thing is that you have to deal with this human nature or human tendency of wanting to compare yourself with others. You have to deal with it. Find a way to deal with it. Because if you don't deal with it, then you kind of you're kind of at the mercy of, or your friend drove a new car, or your friend bought something. Then you kind of get jealous and you feel like, I want to follow that person and so on. So a lot of what I spoke about today, like, or what we spoke about today, about like, you choose what's important to you and you spend on that, right? I think it's very hard to get to that level if you have envy of other people, if you're jealous of other people, or you're comparing yourself to other people. So that is the one thing I hope that, whoever is watching or listening, that you are able to get around that thing lah. And it's hard. I know it's hard. It's human nature. But try to get around that.
That's true. Yeah. I also do realize that when it comes to money part, right, quite a big part of it is about being happy with yourself and not comparing yourself, and not. I think sometimes we tend to feel a bit inferior. Especially for me when I was younger as well, and even my early days of my career, I tend to look at someone else who has a better car, better watch, better life, better holiday, and then I'll ask myself, hey, maybe I'm not as successful compared to this person. So in order to be successful, I need to have those things that they have to prove myself, so that when I talk to them, I feel I'm at the same level, right?
Yeah.
But the older I become and the longer I live, I kind of come to this position where it doesn't really matter what you think I have. It's just who I am as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's pretty much who I am. So I'm not bothered by what others think. But just what makes me happy.
I mean, if I can just add to that, like
go
final
on.
statement,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think if you zoom out again, like, if you don't just think about now, right? If you zoom out like 5, 10, 20 years ahead, right? Does XYZ's opinion of you, will it matter then? It probably won't matter, right? the only people's opinion who matters are your family, your close family, maybe not the very distant family.
That's right.
Your close family, your children, your parents. It's only maybe like 5 to 10 people, if you think
That's
about
right.
it, that their opinions really matter. So actually, if you just take care of this like 5 to 10 people, you don't have to be like worried about, what does that guy think of like the car I drive or something like that.
That's right. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all about it from Mr. Stingy, Aaron, thank you very much for joining us
Peter.
today.
Thank you
Is there
so
any
much.
last words that you want to share with the people for the year of 2024 since it's still almost the end of Q1?
Wow, okay. Stumped me a bit, but yeah, I think I'll just go back to like the something that we mentioned earlier, right? Like a lot of times we think that, you know, we need to get more money and so on, which is fine. Everyone should improve their circumstances. But ultimately money is just a tool, right? Money is just a tool to get what we want out of life. So for most people, that's going to be like happy family, career satisfaction, and so on. Don't get distracted by the pursuit of money that you forget about these more important things.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Aaron. And for those of you, if you enjoy this show, please give us a like and subscribe and share it with your friends. See you guys next week. Share it with your friends. See you guys next week.